Hello everyone, and welcome to TFOL Talk, the podcast where we shine a light on awesome teen fans in the LEGO community doing amazing things, and maybe the occasional AFOL too. I'm Doodlebricks, aka Kavi, and today we're going to be hanging out with Marcus, otherwise known as Marcus Bricks, and creator of MINIFIGGY. How are you doing, man?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very good. So, I guess to start, let's just start with who is Marcus Bricks and what do you do in the LEGO world?
My name is Marcus. My account was at one point named Marcus Bricks. I was inspired by Ash and Flash a very long time ago to start drawing minifigs, and that's what I've done to this day. And recently I rebranded and called myself MINIFIGGY.
Okay, I see. And what was the reason for the rebrand?
I wanted to disassociate myself from the account by turning it into a brand of sorts. But recently I realized that I kind of want to go back to being me and doing what I do on the account instead of it being too formulaic. If that makes sense.
Yeah, okay. So, what is your involvement in the LEGO community and also, like, more specifically, the TFOL community on top of that?
Interesting question.
Thank you.
Well, I am mostly involved with the sect of LEGO artists, so people who draw LEGO minifigures in various fashions in order to keep up with pop culture and its high demand, if that makes sense. So if I'm part of any communities, it's mostly that artists community where we share our art, we appreciate each other's work, and produce our own content.
Okay, so you're very much part of, like, the LEGO art world then, in that kind of side of it. All right,
Yeah.
and how did you kind of get into that, doing the LEGO art, minifigure art?
Like I mentioned earlier, I was watching an Ash and Flash tutorial when I was 13, and after I tried it, I just fell in love with it and just continued to hone in on my skills and develop my own unique style.
Okay, that's fantastic. So you started when you were 13 then. May I ask
Yeah.
how old you are now?
I am currently 17.
Nice, so you've been doing it for a while then.
Yeah, just a little.
Just a little bit. So, like you said, you do a lot of LEGO minifigure art, which it has become a really popular thing in the community since I'm pretty sure Ash and Flash was the one who kind of started that whole minifigure art movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you do the minifigure art, and I guess we can go right into kind of our first question from a listener, actually, which is the first listener question of the podcast, which is very exciting.
Very exciting.
Which comes from the Garden of Bricks. They ask, how do you make your designs?
There's a bit of a process. So first off, we go into Mecha Bricks and create a model. And then from there, we put it into Photoshop. We trace out each part and then color fill. Some of us will add shading and lighting, and then we'll all add our own prints, and it's pretty simple in theory, but you just have to do it to learn.
I see. Okay. So you use the 3D model to kind of go off of to get, like, I guess, all the scale and proportion, right? Because I think so you don't, like, start by, like, just sketching the minifigure, like, loose. You start with that base to make sure everything looks right, yeah?
Yeah. No, the thing about our form of LEGO minifigure art is that it's all based off the genuine proportions of the LEGO minifigure, which means it's really easy to get into the entry level of becoming a LEGO minifigure artist because all you have to do is learn how to trace. and then from there you can develop your skills. But I really value the art of people who do sketches first and don't base it directly off the proportions, because that's a lot more skill involved. And there's something about drawing with your cursor, which is what I do with my trackpad, that it requires a bit of tracing just to get the proportions right. Whereas if you're drawing on an iPad, let's say, it's a bit easier to do your own sketches and relatively replicate the proportions of a minifigure. Of course, there's also more cartoony styles that you can go for that are completely different to that of the Lego minifigure, and I think that also looks really good.
Exactly, like the Monkey Kid style, how they kind of like take the general look of a minifigure, but then totally just like, kind of make it their own, I guess.
It's amazing, and I've looked at your art, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that too.
Genuinely. It's nice.
Thank you. It really means a lot. So you use your trackpad to do kind of like the outlining, and how do you do that? Because that seems really difficult. Like, I know a mouse is already hard enough to draw with, but a trackpad, and for like the quality of the minifigures that you do, I find that incredible. I'm surprised you don't use like a tablet or an iPad or something like that.
Yeah, so basically the way we used to do it is you would use Shift key to create a straight line, and then, which is still what we do, but to create curved lines, we would do a bit of a dot to dot, like 1, 2, I can't explain it. You do a dot to dot, so you'd hold the Shift key and press a few points to try and simulate a curved line. But then my friend who does not do Lego art, but admires my work, he told me there's a smoothing tool. And now I've been using that ever since. You need to get used to it, but it just smoothens your lines, which is pretty great.
That does seem very helpful. Yeah, because I have noticed, I think especially with more like beginner minifigure art, the curves definitely do look kind of angular. Because I guess they're a bit janky. That tool, but I see.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. And
I got really good at creating the curves, simulating them. But then once I found out about the curvature tool, it just blew me away.
It completely changed everything.
Yeah.
That's very
Sorry for
fair.
cutting you off, by the way.
No worries at all. Feel free to. The Garden of Bricks, also kind of related to the subject, also asks, how long does it take to design these figures?
So, the fact of the matter is that I used to draw each figure with a different pose, and it would take me anywhere between a week to a few months to draw a single figure. But in relative time, it's a matter of hours, the smallest being like 2 or 3 hours to 16 hours, let's say. It's a lot of work if you're really dedicated to it. Some people are really, really fast. Lego Mega Artist is probably the fastest I know. He spews out a figure in a minute. And for me personally, even though I've started using a base so that all my figures are, they look the same. If you can't tell by my posts, they're all using the same base so that I can try doing it a little faster. It still takes like a good 2 or 3, 4, even 5 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's understandable. It definitely makes sense to use some like pre-done poses, because once again, if you're doing a new pose for every single one, then like you said, you have to do the outline over and over, and that does seem pretty time consuming.
Yeah. It's worth it for some though. But for me, who's currently doing school, I think it's great to use a template. The template that I created, for that matter. So yeah, it's not like I'm stealing anybody else's work.
Not at all. No, you're making it quicker for yourself. You're getting some preset things done for yourself to kind of speed up the process, which everyone in art does, I'm pretty sure. So
And
that
I'm also
definitely
completely
makes sense.
happy. Yeah, I'm completely happy for people to use my template as well. And I think after this video, I might try promoting that online for people to get my template for free, because I think everybody should be allowed to, experiment with the art style.
Definitely. That's a really nice thing to do. And that's a really big thing in the artist world. I know because, I'm also just part of like the general artist world as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of people sharing their like bases and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
that kind of starting point for people to kind of add on and kind of help them kind of understand the style, like you said. So I think that's definitely a really
Yeah.
nice thing to do.
I'm glad. Hope it helps people.
Definitely, because once again, minifigure art, while it seems simple at first, like you said, it really does take a lot of effort and time to really get it to look
Mm-hmm.
as polished as you get it. Because you're not just like, it's not like you're just outlining a minifigure and then putting in base colors and boom, you're done. Like, you specifically, you like do shading, you like color the outlines for different sections. Sometimes you'll put like other accessories in there as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I haven't been using accessories as much lately, because it's a bit difficult and sometimes I'm a bit lazy, let's be honest. Most of
As
the
we all are.
time-consuming part... Sorry?
I said, as we all are.
Yeah, yeah. Recently, most of the time consumption comes from recoloring parts, because what I have to do in Photoshop is, instead of using the bucket fill to recolor a part, I have to trace, I have to use the selection tool to trace that part, cut it out into a new layer, then I have to double click it, go to blending options, and then change the color completely. And then I have to find my colors and do all of that. And I try to use
Really?
the same colors for every figure, if that makes sense. So it's a bit difficult.
Same colors for every figure as in like the Lego official color palette, you mean?
Yeah, for the most part. I used to not use the color palette at all. I would, how do you say? I would look at pictures of the official figures online and use those to find the colors, because I felt that the color palette that we got was a bit inaccurate. But since I've added shading and lighting, it gives that base hue more depth, so that it does look a bit more, gives it a bit of a range, if that makes sense.
I see. That definitely makes sense. And you also don't solely stick to just official Lego parts, especially when it comes to the hair. You'll sometimes do your own custom hair pieces. How do you go about doing that?
There's a lot of methods, and at first I would get a picture of somebody's hair. I would cut it out and try to plaster it onto the figure, and then I would, how do you say, just trace it and do stuff like that. And that really wasn't effective. From there, I got really good at it by practicing a lot. So I just look at a reference picture of somebody's hair and just freestyle it,
Okay.
Now what I do, which I think is the best method, is to draw each part of the hair in clumps of color and then do the outline. Do a really messy outline and a messy bit of patches of color that represent each curl and each wave of somebody's hair. And then after you've done that, create a more refined outline. So for every figure that I do draw, there's a few layers of hair that aren't going to be in the final cut.
That makes a lot of sense. So, wow, that's really surprising because I didn't realize you kind of like, just went off of a rough reference and just blocked things out, because they look like they could be official hair pieces. So I assumed you like, because I see a lot of people in digital building software, they'll merge hair pieces together to kind of get a different look. So I assumed you did something along those lines, or like kind of like editing the 3D model to kind of look more like how you want it, and then going over that like you do with the rest of the figure.
That works a lot of the time for a lot of people, and especially for people rendering, that really works. But me, who draws organic custom Lego hairs, I think it's just best to freestyle it and try your
Okay.
best and just continue practicing. But obviously use my method of putting base colors down first without any outlines so that you can see the general shaping of the hair, and then put the outlines on. I think that works very well.
Right, that's a really good tip. Yeah, you're very good at that because also the way you do the hair, like you get all the different angles of kind of, how do I explain it? It looks like an official hairpiece in the way that you do the shading and the lines where the angles of it basically. Anyone listening, you can see what I'm talking about because there'll be a picture up, some examples of his artwork. But yeah, it's fantastic the way you do that. I am so surprised.
Thank you so much. You did say before about merging and using reference from official Lego pieces. And when I did my Ninjago CMF last year and tried to merge the designs between, how do you say? What were the designs? Ninjago's original designs and then their post-movie designs, I would manipulate Lego hairs using using a tool in Photoshop. I would just manipulate the way the hair is structured and then use that as the base for what I did next. So that works as well.
So there's a lot of different methods about creating custom hair pieces, I guess, then.
Yeah, it's really what you make of it. And there's no set rules. One thing I learned is that every single Lego minifigure artist in the chats I'm in, they all do it differently.
Okay, I see. Yeah, everyone has their own style of doing it, and like you said, there are no set rules. It's kind of whatever just works best for you, I guess, right?
Yeah, a lot of people do like the rules, and they'll say your art is bad because you don't follow the rules and it doesn't look like Lego, but I see myself as less of a Lego designer and more of an artist using Lego as the, as the medium.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people kind of have it like that. Lego is a medium at the end of the day. It's kind of what it's become.
Yeah, it's really good.
Exactly. It's a medium for creative endeavors, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people confuse Lego art with art using Lego bricks, which is completely understandable. And it makes your work seem to others kind of silly. To outsiders of the Lego community, they might see it as a bit silly, like, why are you drawing Lego people? But, it's cool.
Very much so. You can't listen to that. I think, once again, it's still art at the end of the day. Like, it still takes just as much effort and, I guess, passion behind it as just drawing normally. So, once again, I don't think that judgment is fair just because it is Lego related, you know?
Also depends on how effectively you use that medium, which has become so overpopular. It's become so overpopularized and oversaturated, I believe. So it just really depends on how much you can practice and make perfect. Because I thought a few years ago that I had completely perfected my style, and I just continue to grow and develop and take inspiration from others, and we take inspiration and share in this big community of Lego artists, and I think that's beautiful.
Very much so. That's really fantastic. Yeah, I think there's always more that you can learn about the different things that I guess that you're passionate about. And like you said, you can think that, oh yeah, I've peaked, but if you just keep going, you might find that, well, actually, you've now learned a whole host of new, I guess, techniques to kind of differentiate your art, whether that be Lego art or general art, from other people, because once again, there's so many people doing it, and I guess it's just taking the time to kind of find your way of doing it that makes you stand out. Because while there are a ton of people who do Lego minifigure art, you and so many others have differentiated yourself from them. You can clearly tell who the art is by just by looking at it, and it's just a minifigure, but you guys have really been able to put your own styles into the art.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite part of it. Like, I have so many friends in the Lego art community that do amazing work, and you can just tell instantly, based on the style, whose it is. Everybody's unique, and we all, learn from each other and take inspiration. But not all of us, some of us actually, copy each other, but we're not really copying, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like you guys are cool with it, basically. So it's like, yeah, sure, go ahead, if I'm assuming, right?
there were some people who would just fully rip off other people's work, and you could tell. The shapes, the designs, everything was the same. And especially when you're rendering, because the thing about rendering is that it doesn't require the skills of the shading and the lighting and the outlines and the colors. It's just smack it on, if that makes sense. It's still completely amazing. Render Minifig does an amazing work with all of his rendered minifigure models, but it's a very different type of style, and a lot of people were able to use that to copy people, like very much so, and it caused a lot of drama. But at the end of the day, I don't mind if you copy me, because I take it as a compliment, you know?
Yeah, I definitely understand that. For anybody who doesn't know, can you kind of explain what the rendering is?
So the way rendering works is that there's a 3D model that usually people make, and then they put it through a rendering machine, which makes it come out looking nice. So that's the same thing they do with Pixar movies. So basically back in the day, Pixar had to run their machines for their computers for hours just to make the movie look nice after they'd already modeled everything. And now they continue to do that with greater success, because the rendering machines have just excelled. I don't know, they've just excelled, and they're just amazing now, and they create such beautiful renders. And the thing about Mecha Bricks is that they already give you the models, and you can just slap your own designs on there pretty easily, and then put it through the rendering setting. But if you want to add another layer to your work, you can put it through Blender, which allows you to manipulate everything more. You can create custom parts and render things in a style that looks a bit more aesthetically pleasing, if that makes sense.
Very much so. All right, that is fantastic. Thank you for running anybody through that who doesn't know, because for me it kind of comes as second nature knowing that stuff, but I realize I forget that not everybody kind of understands the just kind of what goes kind of on behind the scenes with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, with all Lego art, no matter what type you're doing, it requires a lot of thought and a lot of time, putting it through different engines and different mediums and different softwares just to get it right at the end. So
definitely. Yeah. But since you guys kind of go over the 3D model, with a 2D drawing, does it matter what the render itself looks like? Because you're going to be going over that at the end of the day, no? Or is there something there?
It doesn't matter whatsoever, but there are actually a few Lego artists who do the 2D Lego art, who actually draw their designs first, their decals, slap it onto the Mecha Bricks model, and then trace over the designs that they already made and put into the model when they're doing their 2D Lego art.
Okay.
Me personally, I don't have that much foresight, so I just freestyle it as I go.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Did they do that to kind of get the perspective right on like the different like clothing items and designs like on the minifigure?
Yeah. The huge thing is that when you're doing different poses, the perspective is really difficult, right, to master. And what I did when I used to have a lot of poses was really struggle with getting the perspective perfect. But now my poses are relatively forward facing, so they're a bit easier to do. And since they're the same, I'm using the same presets, it means that I'm constantly practicing the same thing and it doesn't get too hard.
I see. That definitely makes sense. And a little bit before, you said you did Ninjago CMF. What kind of inspired you to do that?
Well, this is my favorite story because long before time had a name, a very long time ago, no one had done a Ninjago CMF. And I was
Really?
dedicated to being the first one. And guess what? I wasn't. I was beat to it by Noah R, who is an amazing artist. I love him. He's a great guy as well. And by Ash and Flash, who wasn't even a huge Ninjago fan at the time. So that just broke my heart that I was beat to it, because I had this huge aspiration to be the first, and I wasn't. There was also Yellow Bricks. I'm pretty sure it's Yellow Bricks. He's amazing. He did his Ninjago CMF before mine as well, and a lot of people ended up doing it, because this was when the CMF art only just became popularized. So, yeah, I based my figures off Legacy, but I kind of made them my own designs. And yeah, I did that last year, finally. I've got a collaboration on my YouTube channel, which was something I did the year before, which is between myself, Noah R, and a few other amazing Ninjago artists, and we all contributed to a Ninjago CMF for the 10-year anniversary. And I finally got around to doing my own, but even now I look at them and they're a bit rusty, if that makes sense.
Really?
So I look forward to doing even more Ninjago art in the future and hopefully publishing another one. But I'm looking forward also to showcasing those Ninjago minifigures in a YouTube video, especially since I archived everything with the Marcus Bricks logo on it in order to rebrand as MINIFIGGY. That is on my Instagram.
I see, because I was wondering about why, you know, all your past art had gone, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I really wanted to make a brand out of myself, and hopefully in future have other people run the account for me while I do the art. But I just don't think that's very plausible at this point, especially since I'm a relatively small account and I don't think anybody would be interested in sharing the account with me at this point.
I don't know. I mean, I think if you keep going, you definitely have a lot of people interested, because once again, your minifigure art is some of the most professional that I have seen out there, and there's a lot out there. So
Thank you,
I think
sir.
no problem at all.
Sometimes I kind of feel like I'm using cheat codes
Cheat codes, how so?
because I'm using my own presets.
I see. I think it's
Yeah.
once again though. I mean, maybe, I guess, but once again, you made them yourself, so it's not like you're stealing from anybody. You're just making
Yeah.
life easier for yourself.
Yeah, they would look nicer if they had more professional poses, but for now I think this just works for me, especially since I'm still in high school.
Definitely, that makes a lot of sense. And once again, I guess you kind of you'd save the more dynamic poses for, I guess, not just like every single one that you do, but kind of the more special ones, I guess, right?
Yeah. See, oh, I wanted to talk about this.
Go ahead.
About 3 or 4 years ago, I had this amazing idea to draw Lloyd's Titan mech as a minifigure. And I was on the beach and I was like to my brother, bro, I'm going to do this. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be like a samurai mech armor, but on a minifigure. And I told him about this, and I'd prepared so many times to draw it. I drew so many bits of concept art, and I never got around to it until late last year, or was the year before? Late last year, I think.
It's a bit confusing since we're only just into the new year.
Yeah, exactly. I just finally got into it, and it took me the longest out of any drawing I'd ever done. And I think it was totally worth it. It became my most liked post, like instantly. And I also had like 300 layers on the Photoshop document, so it was mad.
Ooh.
But
Yeah, that is wild.
I was very proud of it, and I do not know why I archived it, but I'm thinking, do I continue that CMF? And if so, I should probably go back to posing my minifigures just for that, you know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. By continue that series, do you mean like making more minifigure versions of the kind of like the ninja's own mechs? So like Jay's Titan mech suit or that kind of thing, or
No, actually, that CMF was intended, that figure was intended to be part of a larger CMF. Since I had the idea 3 years ago, it was going to be in the same CMF as the legacy minifigures, such as Bath Towel J and Pajama Kai. But then I decided to break it up into legacy and then post legacy, which in my opinion is seasons 1 to 7, and then seasons 8 to seasons 15, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I was just going to draw figures, minifigures from season 8 to 15. Well, characters and versions of characters, but I was gonna not abide by any rules per se, and really just draw crazy designs such as Lloyd's Tiny Mech, which has no relevance to the show, but it does a little. I would just draw weird stuff like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just kind of, I guess, not necessarily making like, this character that appeared in this outfit at this point. I mean, I guess some of those, but it's more just going with what you think would be cool that does have some tie to those kind of seasons within that time period, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one that I did do actually a few times. I drew it like 3 times because it was intended for the original Ninjago CMF like 3 years ago when I first dreamt of it. I drew Anime J, which is basically J from the anime episodes, but as a Lego minifigure. And I'll show you a photo of that. But I just loved every single iteration of that figure that I drew. And honestly, I want to draw him again. And I had prepared a Mechabricks pose that I was going to draw him in, which is the exact Kamehameha pose from the show. But I never got around to it. And that was the time that I decided I wanted to quit Lego art because of my burnout.
Oh,
So, yeah.
wow. You were like, so not that long ago, you were thinking about quitting Lego because of burnout?
I actually did quit. And then I got talked back into it, but decided to use my presets that I wasn't burning myself out as much because I felt that my work was still valuable, if you wish.
Definitely. Wow, okay. And how long ago was this, you said?
Oh man. It was before the new year. September, October, November time. I'll say around then. I had a really long break.
2022?
Here's the problem. Pardon? 2022.
2022? Yeah.
Yeah. I had a really long break, and here's the problem. I just stopped posting after Lloyd's Tiny Mech, which was like a huge send-off, really. And then I decided, you know what, I'm sick of it. And I did a post saying, I'm actually done with this account completely. Which was at first true, but I kind of lied a bit. And I felt bad about it. I didn't try to lie, but I ended up coming back and rebranding because, yeah, Marcus Brooks was gone, but this was the start of something new.
I see, which would, I guess, be minifiggy afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I see. And so was it more that you were just thinking of quitting Lego art or Lego as a whole?
Okay, so the thing was, I'm already on my way to stop being, how do I say? I am becoming I am becoming currently a more casual collector of Lego. At one point, I wanted every single Ninjago set, and that was my goal. Not really. It was every new one that came out that would add to my collection and look nice. And so I'd get about half of the wave-ish. I don't know. I'd just get anything that would contribute nicely and was a good build, because the main thing I enjoyed was the build. Now the problem is, I just feel like recently I had a transformation as a Christian, and I didn't want to be such a materialist. So I feel like at some point I want to get rid of most of my Lego, not because I don't love it or anything, but just because I don't fully identify with worldly attachments, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
So what I would keep is likely the Destiny's Bounty Legacy, Lloyd's Tiny Mech, because that has a heap of sentimental value for me, and Ninjago City Gardens. And obviously recently I bought the bonsai tree. So sets like that, which can stand the test of time and not be an obstacle for me and my headspace, I reckon that's good.
That's understandable. Definitely not having to collect, a whole ton of the stuff. Just really keeping it to the bare essentials, I guess, that really give you joy. They have sentimental attachment to those kinds of things.
Yeah, definitely.
That makes a lot of sense. And may I ask what the sentimental attachment to the mech is?
I got it on I believe it was my 14th birthday. I can't fully remember the numbers. I think it was 14th. The thing about it was, when the leaks came out for a Lloyd's Tiny Mech, I initially thought that just sounds so dumb because I was in
Really?
an entirely different mentality. And then when it came out, the images, I was like, it's all right. And then later on, as it was leading up to my birthday, I got a Lego City Space set, but I was more into Ninjago. So Mum went with me to the store with my friend as well to return it and exchange it for a set of the same value. And when I saw Lloyd's Tiny Mech, there was something about it that was drawing me to get it. And after I did, it was just such a beautiful build, and I just fell in love with it and became very attached to it. So yeah, it subverted my expectations in the fact that it is a very lovely set and set the pace for a lot of Ninjago mechs to come. And I just love that style of Ninjago mech.
I see. That's so interesting. Yeah, I definitely agree. It is very much a standout mech and did very much influence the ones that came after. Not in the knees department, but I think in the grand cool scale of things.
Yeah, I was always upset about the knees. And I know, given that it's Lego, I could update and upgrade it, but I'm not very good at mocks, so
That's
I'm
understandable.
a bit lazy as well.
There is
But yeah.
actually a pretty good tutorial on YouTube that I found by, I don't remember the guy's name now, but it will be on screen. And he modified the mech to have bendable knees and a head with a ball joint, and I did those modifications, and it's pretty good actually.
That's awesome. Yeah, I might try that if I find the time.
Definitely, yeah. But no, the knees on mechs is always a thing that bothers me very much so, and I know we're not the only ones, but luckily they've been doing that more with like the Zane's Titan mech and Jay's Titan mech and Nia's Samurai X mech, and hopefully the trend
Yeah,
continues.
it's pretty amazing. Yeah,
Really is.
it's pretty great. And the technique on Zane's Tiny Mech, which is another set that I bought, like, I'm pretty sure the following year, given that I love Lloyd's Tiny Mech so much, it's just amazing the technique that they use. And it's arguably a better build, arguably, but I just like Lloyd's Tiny Mech more.
I totally get that. Lloyd's Titan mech is a bit more grand with like the sprawling, I guess, wings. I guess, yeah, they're
Yeah,
wings, right?
their wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was supposed to draw the wings on my minifigure art, but I just completely ditched that idea and thought what I had was good enough, given the fact that I put so much effort into it. And I think good enough, not to toot my own horn, but good enough is a bit of an understatement given how much effort I put into that minifigure.
No, I totally understand that. I think it was good where you left it because it could get a little bit too busy if you added too much more. So
Absolutely.
I think it looks great how it is.
Yeah. 300 layers is pretty busy.
Yeah, that is ridiculous, and I thought my layers were insane. That is wild.
Yeah, I've got OCD, so you know
That's
how it is.
very fair. And I was gonna say, are you planning on doing any other CMFs at some point? Also, for anybody who doesn't know, CMF stands for collectible minifigure.
So yeah, the thing about the CMF formula within the Lego art community is that that's what everybody's been drawing their figures in the idea that you have to do 18 figures at a time, and then it dropped to 16 and then 12 now. And then they would do Bricktober packs, and it's the idea that you're doing a draft of what Lego would do. Whereas I've come to the realization that through my art, Lego would probably never do that. The type of stuff that I do. They would probably never be able to produce the level of detail and all the different new molds and stuff that I introduce with my art. But
Yeah.
now it's less of an idea of drafting what Lego would do and then saying, this is art. I don't imagine it being what Lego would do or becoming a CMF, but I like it. And that's all it needs to be. Just if you like it, other people will too.
I think that's a good mentality to have. Doing the art for yourself, basically, not having to follow any set formula.
Mm-hmm.
That's very understandable,
Yeah,
and that keeps it enjoyable for yourself, right? Because you're not abiding to rules set by other people. It's just kind of going with what you enjoy.
Yeah, and I'm not wasting too much time on figures that I don't find enjoyable to draw, which I did a lot in the past, and it's not worth it. Still today, what I do is I try to abide by the formula of Instagram layout, which is three squares per row, I believe, which means that I'm usually doing everything in threes. So if I'm drawing 3 characters, I'll do that. But if I have to draw any more than 3 from the same universe or something, or the same series, I have to add 2 more so that I get it up to 6 to fill that grid because of my OCD, obviously.
Ah, I see.
And that's the same with the more recent Superman and Batman, which I did, which I really enjoyed doing, but I'm dreading drawing Wonder Woman. And then from there, I want to do 3 more, The Flash, Aquaman, and Green Lantern. And here's the thing, if I'm going to draw them, I'd love to draw the whole Justice League, but it's just too much effort for me, especially since they're my own designs, they're my own versions that have just popped out of my head, and obviously by inspiration from other artists and source material. But yeah, it's a lot of effort, and it just makes you not want to do Lego art. And that's my number one thing. If you don't want to do Lego art because you feel pushed, don't do that form of Lego art. Do anything that is organic and feels nice, and
Yeah.
you're actually proud of your work at the end, and it was worth it on the journey.
That's very good advice, I think. Very, very good. I definitely understand that, though. That is definitely difficult, having to do kind of, if you want to do any more than 3, having to, go for 6 and then so on. But
And then 9, and then 12.
and then 9.
And then,
yeah.
Math. 15. I'm not going to try.
Don't worry, you're good. But yeah, I definitely see how that can become annoying at times. Is there any way to cheat that by putting a handful in one post or something, so you don't have to fill up the whole thing, 2 minifigures per post?
Yep. I was drawing 2 minifigures per post during my Ninjago CMF last year, and that was because I felt that they'd get more traction, and they kind of worked in pairs, if that makes sense. So I put Jay and Nia together, Zane and Pixel, Kai and Karloff, which I don't know if they work together, but they just fit. There was Cole and Cryptor. It was a lot of random groupings. Some of them were more, made more sense, and they just looked like each figure complemented each other. And it also filled out the square grid a lot nicer because, how do you say? Yeah, a minifigure is more vertical, if that makes sense. So it fills out the square by having 2 vertical minifigures. And yeah, you could do that, but it really didn't really change anything.
Yeah, I see.
Because I was still doing things in 3s. So I still did a 12 minifigure CMF, but it was just condensed to 6 posts rather than 12.
I see. Okay. I see what you're saying there.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're looking to get more traction on your posts, which a lot of people are, whereas nowadays I'm more interested in just putting my stuff out there than being popular or anything like that. But if you're looking to get the most out of each post, you might want to do only 1 minifigure per post, because that means that, how do you say? It means that you're getting more traction over a longer period of time instead of putting them all in at the same time and then later you have nothing to post, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're spreading it out basically.
But my
No.
number one advice is do what's good for you and make sure that it's not about popularity or anything like that. So, yeah.
Do it for the passion basically, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because if you're solely doing things just to get popular or whatever it is that you're doing it, and you don't necessarily love it as well, then that can definitely turn out not very well. Either being burnout or just people realizing that you don't actually care about what you're doing. Go with what makes you happy, what you enjoy doing.
Yeah, it's not healthy.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. And make sure you're not spending too much time draining your energy. I realize that since I'm doing Lego art in front of a screen, it's really tiring for me and really exhausting. So make sure that in all areas of life, you're just balancing your time, making sure you get to bed at a good time, and that you're away from a screen for a certain amount of period, a certain period of time before you get to bed, so that you're not exhausted and mentally drained all the time. That's just life advice, I suppose.
I completely agree. That is great life advice. So something I was wondering is, would you ever, I guess, like to have some of your designs like printed by custom minifigure printers and then sold?
I've actually always wanted that for as long as I've known about custom minifigure printing, but well, my dream for the longest time when I was a kid was to be a Lego minifigure designer. And honestly, given that opportunity, that would be amazing. But at the moment, I'm more focused on just doing the right thing in everything in my current life, rather than focusing too much on big dreams, if that makes sense. So yeah, if anybody would be able to help me with that, that would be amazing. But it's a lot of effort and a lot of expenses, and I'm not even sure if people are that interested in my designs to go and buy them. So yeah, I'd rather stay put than extend myself if it doesn't give any, yeah, if it doesn't help me and if it doesn't help anyone else. So if it's just making more trouble for the printers and stuff, I don't want to put them through that stress either.
I understand that. Though, once again, I definitely think people would be interested in your designs because they have a fantastic style to them.
Thank you.
I was also going to say, so you said it was originally your dream to like be a minifigure designer. I'm assuming you mean like for Lego themselves?
Yeah,
I see.
that would be amazing, but you know,
So you'd still like to do that then?
if given the opportunity though, I'm not really seeking it out because I don't know, there's other things I'm more focused on in life at the moment.
That's
Yeah.
understandable. So do you not, I mean, do you see like besides, I guess, if you were given the opportunity to do the minifigure design for Lego, do you see Lego being a big part in your future, when it has to do with like a career in any other aspects of it, or more as a hobby or a passion?
Definitely definitely a hobby. The thing is, if there was a career path to go and work with Lego and actually put your foot in the door and actually get there, I'll totally take it. But I know nothing about actually being a part of Lego. And, you know, I always like tried to look for it when I was younger, like what I would need as in courses and stuff, but I just have no clue whatsoever. So let's say by some miracle, I get reached out to by somebody, which I completely doubt at this point, and I'm invited to come work and to come do what I'm passionate about. That would be amazing. But yeah, currently, I think my goal is just to work in any which field and area because I don't even know what I'm doing with my future. I just want to work so that I can one day support a family. That's my goal.
That's a really good goal. I respect that. And
Hmm.
you are, though, selling commissions, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I am. And I don't know. I haven't, I've gotten 2 commissions from the same person since I rebranded as minifiggy, and I just don't think it's a viable business option for me. I was hoping I
Yeah.
could make a bit of money to put towards my car, which is obviously a utility, so that I can use it to do other things like get another job, go to work, make money for a future house and for a future family. So yeah, me like selling my products was never a thing of being obsessed with money. It's more just trying to create a foundation for my future and doing that through my passion. But I just don't think it's a viable business strategy to be selling my art, especially since I have to sit down for hours and hours and do each one to perfection because unhealthily I'm an unhealthy perfectionist. So how do you say? Yeah, I think I'm just gonna try settle for work that's more realistic and will actually help me in my future and focus on making this more of a hobby. And if I do get commissions on the side, that's amazing. But for now, like, I'm just enjoying drawing whatever I want. And still, like, sometimes what I want to do, I don't want to do at the same time. Like, I just want to be done with this Justice League series so that I can move on to Spider-Man and Spider-Verse, and then more Ninjago, which is
Oh.
my brave passion, and then more sig figs and draw more people because I just love drawing people. That's my favorite thing. So yeah, I really need to get my head in the game so that I can just do more of what I love and less of what I don't love, if that makes sense.
I definitely understand what you're saying there. I think it's definitely good, especially right now, to have the commissions as sort of a side thing that you can be making income from. But I see why you don't want it to make it your main source of income, I guess, because it is very, I guess, emotionally draining as well, having to, like, if you got like a big influx of that, you'd have to continuously do it over and over and over. And especially with the issue of the perfectionism, I understand that can very much make it, you can get burned out from that very fast. And I do know that sometimes it's good to keep your passions as your passions and not make them your job as well. I mean, it depends on each person. Like, personally, I'd love to work for Lego, and Lego is my passion, so I'm good to do that, but it really depends for everybody, and I completely understand why you wouldn't want to do that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think my goal in life is not to, this is just a cliche quote, work to live, don't live to work. So by that notion, I don't want to be obsessed with my work because then I'll be fully consumed by it and then it'll be draining on me, on my mental state and my emotional state. Rather, I want to use my work as a platform to have a better life, especially for a future family. And I believe that family and relationships and friendships and just people is what makes everything in the world so beautiful. And I am obsessed with people and friends and meeting new people. And I think that's what I want to bring to the world. So my art is one thing, but being able to share my beliefs and my ministry, especially as a Christian, is another thing. And I think that if I can do Lego on the side and still enjoy helping others, I think that's really great.
I totally get what you're saying there. I think that's really lovely what you said about, people and family and all that kind of stuff being just like kind of the most important thing. And yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
that's really lovely. And I definitely agree. Do you happen to be an extrovert by any chance?
Yeah, I was actually an introvert for a very long time. And I honestly think like there's nothing wrong with anybody. Everybody's beautifully made and wonderfully designed in their own ways. But I think that being an introvert is actually really unhealthy, and that's coming from somebody who was introverted. Like, it just made me feel so sad and lonely and depressed all the time. And I realized that my true capacity would be expressed in being open to new people, because I believe that relationship and friendship and sharing as a community and as a people, as a huge race that is humanity, is just so much more beautiful than being contained within yourself and your own desires and your own passions. It's more about people, you know? And that's something awesome about the Lego community as well, is that we just get to meet people. And I can't wait to hopefully one day travel overseas to conventions and that, and meet some of the friends I've spoken to online and just really grown an attachment to, not specifically because of their work, but because of who they are as people. And I think that's the most beautiful thing. That even though we live on the other side of the world from each other, and we can see each other's work and what we've done and appreciate that, but we can also talk to each other as human beings, and we can create a friendship and a bond, because that's what the world is all about. It's about love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for ranting.
Beautifully said. No worries. That was beautifully said. I completely agree. That is lovely. I think just, spending time with people, good people that you enjoy and make you feel fulfilled is like just one of the best things in life. And Lego, once again, I'd say the majority of the people in the Lego community are pretty damn awesome people. And yeah, it's kind of like you said, while there's stuff, while the things that everybody does in the community is awesome, it's also about who they are as people. And I think Lego is a great way to kind of bridge that gap. It gives everyone something in common that they then, build a friendship based off of that, and then it goes deeper afterwards. And I think that's absolutely lovely. It's really a thing of bringing people together.
And although there's a lot of toxicity in our community, which I believe is just a reflection of the world, because we're just a small sect of the greater world, I just believe that we're a reflection, just a small reflection, of all the troubles that are going on worldwide. So though there is a lot of toxicity, we all got to acknowledge that everyone is awesome, like you said, and that we're all just one big community, and that we're all just humans, because at the end of the day, it's not about Lego, it's about humanity, for me at least. And it's not about greed, and it's not about pride, it's about sharing. And I think that's something awesome about Lego.
That's lovely. That's really nice. I definitely agree. I don't think the toxicity thing is really specific to Lego. Like, while it is in more, like subcategories of it than others, I'm not going to call out any specific subcategory, but, it's in certain areas of the passion fandom more than others. I think the Lego community has it pretty good when it comes to, toxicity, because there are other communities that have it so much worse, like where, the majority of the community is like that. So, well, there's going to be toxicity in any community, no matter how wholesome it is. So
yeah,
I think
a lot of people blame the Lego community, whereas I say it's the world that we live in. We're all humans. We all have our own biases and our own upbringings and our own beliefs, and we're going to clash. But it's about working together, because everyone is awesome. And it's cool when we're part of a team. You know the lyrics.
We're living the dream. Absolutely. I completely agree, though. It's people. It's not the community specifically. It's just...
yeah.
It's humans,
Yeah. And on that note, I want to give a shout out to my favorite member of the Lego community, Pen Plays, who I've gotten to know as a genuine person, and that's one of my favorite things about the Lego community.
That is so cool. So you're close with Pen then?
Yeah, have been for a little while. And he's kind of like a big brother to me, which is
that's so
pretty
nice.
Great.
Yeah, Pen is an awesome guy. He was on the last episode of TFOL Talk, and that episode was long. He's really fun to talk to.
Definitely, he's got a lot to say.
Very much so, and a lot of really interesting insight and perspective.
Yeah, he's a smart guy, hey?
I definitely agree. Go check out Pen Plays, everybody.
100%. Also, his YouTube channel blew up recently.
Right?
Absolutely. It was like, I swear it was like 2,000 followers. It was like 1,000, then 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, jumped to like 10,000. Now he's on like 17,000 or something.
Oh,
I was out with my friends. Yeah, I was out with my non-Lego friends, and we were feeling through the new CMF packets. And I was like, bro, there's a baby spaceman in the new Lego CMF. And he's like, that's so cool. So he looks it up, and the first video that comes up is Pen Plays. And I'm like, hey, I know that guy. So it's in the real world as well, and that's pretty cool.
That is so lovely. That's so cool that you went to feel that you felt how minifigures with your non-Lego friends. I can't usually get mine to do that, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Even for me, Lego has become something of a more casual experience, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. My non-Lego friends, people that aren't obsessed with Lego with just as I am, but they still enjoy Lego. Everybody grew up with it. It's a great thing. And I brought Lego to my friend's house just so we could build with the boys, and that's pretty fun, I reckon.
That sounds like a lot of fun. That's really
Yeah, it
fantastic.
was.
So, have you ever gotten kind of like a negative reaction from telling people that you are a fan of Lego, or teased or something like that, or has it all just been pretty good?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I was only starting off in high school, for us in Australia, high school starts in 7th grade and ends in 12th grade. So, yeah, when I was only starting off, like, I was pretty open about liking Lego. Like, I don't see any reason not to be. And that was when I was starting my YouTube channel, had my name changed to Marcus Bricks and stuff like that. So, yeah, I was pretty open about it. I was pretty proud of it. A lot of people were supportive of it. A lot of other people would watch my stuff, but still like tease me for it and joke around. And the worst thing is that often the people that bully you, you're really close with, and they're your friends, and you just feel betrayed, if that makes sense. So there were a lot of jokes made about Marcus Bricks. A lot of them were fun, lighthearted, and a lot of them were from bullies who just wanted to get under my skin and say I'm childish and immature for liking Lego. And then others saying like, since I was the type of kid who was pretty pure and innocent, they would say, what, you don't do such and such, you probably watch Lego porn, which is just pretty revolting when I say
Yeah.
it out loud, but that's the type of jokes they would have made about me. And then obviously Marcus Bricks rhymes with other things, so
Yeah.
you
I
know,
see.
they'd make jokes about the clickety clack, if that makes sense. If you get it, you get it. And yeah, as you grow older, here's my advice. As you grow older, people just accept the fact that you like Lego. And honestly, a lot of teenagers now will just casually enjoy Lego. I know a bunch of girls and guys in my grade who do collect a bit of Lego, and they're not even classified as Lego fans. So they just enjoy it. Everybody enjoys it a bit because it's a bit of a taste of your childhood. You may have grown out of the idea of playing with Lego, but collecting and just casually enjoying the experience is just something that everybody can learn to do, and a lot of people have been recently, especially with the adult oriented, not adult as in like inappropriate, but adult oriented Lego sets. It's become a huge collector's item, and a lot of people who used to like Lego look back at the nostalgia and then see what's going on now and say, hey, I remember I used to love that stuff. And you can relate to a lot of people who might have bullied you in the past about your passions. And yeah, I guess people grow up, and this is for all parts of life. Bullying usually can grow a little less. How do you say? Bullying usually stops, but if it does continue, my advice, non-Lego related, is just be confident in yourself. Give yourself daily affirmations of who you are, know your identity and who you are, and just tell yourself that, and other people will see that you're not scared or cowardly, and they'll stop bullying you. In my opinion, that's how it worked for me, and that's how I got out of my introvert phase. I just really found myself personally through Jesus Christ, and like praying and being in communion with him and finding a new identity. And then yeah, I guess, how do you say? You just find yourself, and then you can really, life gets a lot easier for you when you find out who you are. And that's with bullying, that's with the community, that's with Lego, and that's going to be for the rest of your life, no matter how hard things get. And I think it's really important that as teenagers, we try to find ourselves now so that we don't grow up to be just big kids who are still struggling with the all the traumas and the stress from our childhoods.
I think that is very, very good advice. Very good advice. It's I'm really sorry to hear that you went through all of that before with, kids in your school bullying you about liking Lego and saying all those horrible things. But I think that was really good advice that you gave about being confident in yourself and who you are. And, if you emanate that, people will leave you alone after a while because they can see that they're not getting anything from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I will go right off the bat and say I'm friends with every single kid who bullied me ever, which is pretty great. I'm friends with everyone now. And that's just, I believe that's an act of confidence. Obviously, it's not always easy, and it's not going to happen in the blink of an eye, but things grow and people change over time. And I just believe that if you have confidence, you can do great things and change the world, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, as long as what you enjoy isn't hurting anyone else or yourself, go for it, Doesn't matter what other people think.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
and especially something like Lego that is a creative medium at this point. Once again, it's gone beyond just being a toy. Just like video games have gone beyond just being a thing for kids. They become a creative medium now. So,
Absolutely.
I was going to say, you said you're friends with everybody who kind of gave you a hard time about the Lego stuff. I guess do you not think that they might do something like that again in the future, or have they, like you said, changed as people now? So,
They've grown a lot, and honestly, you really need to make sure that you understand what you're doing as well, because I was obviously making myself an easy target, but I also wasn't being a very nice person to my bullies in response. So sometimes the reason people bully you is because they might be jealous or afraid. They might just see a weakness in you, but also sometimes it's because you make them feel vulnerable about themselves, so they want to make you feel vulnerable. A lot of time there's competition for popularity and grades and all of those things. So yeah, I think you really need to just be confident in yourself, and also make sure you're correcting yourself and have a good moral compass so that you're able to just rectify issues, especially in relationships, because everything is two-sided. Okay, not every bully knows they're a bully even. So
yeah.
yeah,
I totally see what you're saying there.
it's a huge issue that really doesn't, it exceeds the community. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It's just a general human thing, like we said before. I think especially when people see that you are, I guess, have such a passion for something and that you enjoy it like that, and if they don't have something like that, it can, like you said, make them feel insecure, and then obviously people don't like that. So, those types of people, rather than just dealing with it, they will come after you about it, which is unfortunate, but
Yeah.
once again, as long as you are confident in yourself and you know your worth and who you are, none of that matters.
Yeah, that's good.
So, if Lego was to start focusing on teens more, like how they have with this whole Adults Welcome campaign, what do you think could work for TFOLs?
Man, just absolutely creating a Lego a Lego social media platform. I think that'd be absolutely amazing, because there's so much hype around the brand, and you just go onto Instagram and you can see how much people are into it. And Lego should really be a lot more decisive about how they market and how they release and all that, because Lego leaks are pretty horrible. If Lego themselves are giving us regular teasers and getting people hyped up and really focusing on doing that, I feel like that'd be great, especially for TFOLs, who I think they're the most, honestly, I think TFOLs are the most, they might not be the biggest nor the loudest, but I think they're the most fundamental part of the Lego community.
How so?
Well, you have AFOLs, which are it's very niche, I think, the AFOL community, because, well, they're adults who are fans of Lego. And then you have KFOLs, which is all the children who are the main target audience. And they're just more consumers. But then you have the TFOLs who are stepping into themselves and using Lego as the medium for their creative endeavors, as I said earlier, as we spoke about earlier. So yeah, using Lego as the medium for their creative endeavors, and it really just allows for self-expression. And a lot of the TFOLs are really stepping up, and showing themselves off. And yeah, I think as somebody who's on the edge of being an AFOL, if that makes sense, like soon enough we'll both be AFOLs, if that's what you'll call it.
Yeah.
And
that's wild.
But yeah, I feel like we'll always owe our respects to the TFOLs and our friends who made the community great for us. And I just really hope that if we grow in popularity as we become older, we'll also be able to respect and like really value the smaller accounts and the TFOLs that are rising up to take our place one day as mini influencers in the Lego community.
I totally agree with what you're saying. I think that you're very right about how, we're in a very interesting space where we're stepping into kind of the AFOL era, and we're kind of a mix of both of Lego's biggest audiences, I guess, which are the adults who have the money to buy the stuff, and the kids who will buy more of just the general things that they're making, and I guess is more the target audience. But I feel like, once again as well, if they focus on teens more, they will keep us when we go into adulthood. Because I think what happens a lot of the time is when people get into, their teen years, they get bullied or just think that, Lego isn't cool anymore. So they have a dark age, and then either they will come back to it later on when they're adults, or just about to be, or way into being adults, or they just never come back to it. And then they become judgy of it themselves, and then, the cycle continues like that.
Yeah. Obviously, Lego is a brand, and they're interested in money.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be nice. It's kind of our responsibility to really cultivate the community side of Lego. And
You think
honestly,
so?
Pardon?
I said, do you think so?
Yeah, I don't think a company can really be responsible for the culture that is then comes forth from it. You can really facilitate that environment, but it's really ours to decide. Honestly, all of the stuff that we have in our community, they were all created by us, we content creators, and not by Lego themselves. So what makes Lego what makes the Lego community more than just the company is that it's just so much more expansive because everybody's being creative and being themselves.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. And I think it's, I definitely admire what you said about, you hope that, the content creators now who are TFOLs will have more respect for kind of the next wave of younger fans or newer creators coming into the space. I think that's a really lovely hope, I guess, a mentality, and I really hope that does happen, because I think what can happen a lot of the time is, as people grow, they can kind of forget their roots, or not necessarily forget, but just kind of forget how much of an impact it has when somebody that you look up to just so much as says, hey, cool work, or something of that sort.
Yeah, man, like I was obsessed with all these different Lego content creators and influencers for the longest time as I was younger. And now I'm friends with so many of them, which is pretty crazy, pretty
That is
awesome.
amazing.
Not very close to all of them, but like I'm considerably, I can consider them a friend, and I'd love to meet them in real life. You know, we mutually follow each other on social media and stuff, which isn't a huge thing, but it really means a lot to somebody who's trying their best to make their place in the community. But I also hope that people who really want to be noticed don't make that their end goal, you know? That they just really have joy in who they are right now without having to be accepted by everyone and without having to be popular and all that, because really it can't be about popularity at the end of the day. It's about just doing what's right and being passionate about what you're passionate about.
Absolutely. I completely agree there. Once again, you have to focus on the passion side of it, like we've been saying, and not numbers, but actual human interaction, and not just for the clout of like, oh, like just too good replied to my comment, or just too good noticed me, using him as an example, but more just like actually wanting to make connections with real people, like you've said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Just Too Good followed me recently. And I was
Really?
really, yeah, he followed Minifiggy. I'm not sure if he still does. You know, I was really ecstatic about that because he was my favorite for the longest time. Ash and Flash was my favorite for the longest time, and we've had a few conversations even, which is just awesome.
Yeah. Man, I
Like,
don't blame you. That's so exciting when that kind of stuff happens.
yeah, it is exciting, but honestly, like I still find it exciting, but I think you need to understand that that's not what your happiness is rooted in, you know? You need to
Yeah.
find your happiness in other things. Personally, it's in my relationship with God, but other people, it's through your passions and your creativity. So really make sure that you know your worth and your value before anything good happens to you. That way you can be confident in yourself, even regardless of all those things. But it's also amazing when you get appreciated for what you do, especially by people you look up to and you've always looked up to, and those who you've always been so interested in, you know?
Yeah. I definitely understand what you're saying.
Yeah, we're all just humans after all.
Yep.
And
That's absolutely right.
honestly, the obsession with pop culture and stuff can get unhealthy. So
Yeah.
even the obsession with celebrities, I don't think that's very healthy for people, because like
Yeah.
sometimes you don't even appreciate the relationships and the family members that you have, like your mother and father, and you're more interested in some person that you'll never meet and you don't even know if they're a good person in real life, you know?
I
But
completely agree.
as for many celebrities in the Lego community, there is a they're obviously not going to be exactly how you think they're going to be, but it's nice that we're all close enough that like no matter if you have 100 followers or 100,000, we're still all doing around the same thing, and it is nice when you get noticed by somebody who's, how do you say, who's statistically greater than you by those standards, but really everybody's equal, which is the great thing. And this is a comment on society and all that. It's but we can incorporate our beliefs into the Lego community and see how everything in the real world also reflects the Lego world, because the Lego world is the real world, you know?
Yeah, it's a branch of it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's good that we learn things here, especially how to treat people.
Yes. And I think overall the
Mm.
Lego community is very good for the most part at treating people well.
I believe so. See, I've had a lot of drama with people, but at the
Really?
end of the day, yeah, for my opinions and stuff, but sometimes it's best to keep your opinions to yourself just to be kind, you know?
Yeah, I've I've definitely learned that. There are definitely times, both Lego wise and not, that I've been so tempted to just like write out like, oh my god, but no, I have to hold myself back and be like, nope, keep it to yourself. Keep it to
Yeah,
yourself. It's only gonna make more issues.
mm, you also shouldn't feel forced to be friends with anyone you don't want to be. So
No,
that goes for the real world and the Lego world. So I've had to
definitely.
remove myself from a lot of situations in real life. And how do you say? Recently, I've had to unfollow some accounts on the Lego side, not because I don't like the people, but just because I feel like it's draining on my mental health following too many accounts, if that makes
I
sense.
see. It's an overload of content, I guess, right?
Yeah, definitely. Which is part of the reason why I got burnout and wanted to leave the Lego community completely, because I was just, yeah, really overstimulated by all of the content out there and all of the pressures of keeping up with that content status quo and being a
Yeah,
content creator.
I definitely understand that. All right. Well, we did have a submitted question by Cam04M Pen. I hope I said that right. Which is, what aspect of the Lego community do you love the most? But I think we kind of already covered that naturally.
Yeah, I think it's the people. Everyone is awesome.
Quoting the Lego movie, but just everyone instead of everything.
Yeah. Quoting Lego themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
They get it for the most part.
For the most part, yeah. Definitely not perfect, but once again, they're a company at the end of the day. While the people who design the sets are awesome people, I think the corporate side, it's a company. A
Yeah.
company is going to be a company.
Yep.
So, can I ask you a little bit more about the your idea for having a social media catered towards TFOLs? Because I don't think I've heard anybody say that before. What would it be like to you? What would you be your ideal Lego specific social media? Because we have Lego Life, but that's more for kids, and it's rough around the edges, let's say.
Man, I reckon just a new form of social media would be awesome in any context. Okay, so because I feel like social media is really amazing, but also really dangerous. And I'm not sure how you could balance that to make it a really safe place. There'd obviously have to be a liking system and a following system.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, it also makes it it makes it that people are subconsciously going to become addicted to clout chasing, which is just really not what I think the Lego community or the world should be about. Which that's just a
Yeah.
personal opinion. So if people think, no, we should have a social hierarchy of who's the greatest and who's a cool person in our community, then that's that's what it is. But I just don't think that's right. But I don't think there's any way to avoid that, really.
Yeah, I agree, because I think that's kind of what makes the draw of social media, because it's like people want to get their work noticed and out there. So, while it can definitely
Yeah.
be, I guess, not the best, I don't know if it's possible to really do a social media that's not like that, unless it's something like Be Real, which is not, you couldn't even apply Lego to that.
Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, I feel like it could just be based around the Instagram formula, sort of, but like a bit different. The way I do it is that everybody has their own account, okay? And there are different tiers of engagement. There's video, image, animation, stuff like that. But there would be different kind of arts within the Lego community. There's photography, which would be photographs of genuine Lego figures and sets. There would be mock building. That these would all be like subcategories within the communities, and you would filter that in your post. So when you're posting something, you'd put that as a flare,
Ah,
if that makes sense. So it'd be art, digital art, rendering, all the different things that make the Lego community special, and there definitely have to be a lot of user feedback that would like get Lego to actually do this and actually incorporate everybody's ideas into it, including Lego animation, stop motion, digital Lego animation, digital stop motion, if that makes sense, with the rendering tools. And there's so much you could do with it. And honestly, it would get a bit crowded, but I think if there's a lot of options for filtering what you see and what you're interested in, and like an algorithm that promotes smaller accounts for their work, not just because you're popular or anything like that, an algorithm that allows everybody to be seen, I feel like that'd be awesome.
That does really sound amazing. I really love that idea. So kind of sorting the different aspects of what people do in Lego into their own categories when you post.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I like that.
It might be possible that like there's a different subsection or a different page or a different window, how do you say? A different tab for each different category, or like a little button at the top that you can filter into whichever subcategory you're looking for. And I feel like that would be awesome. And I want it to be something where everything that is under that subcategory is visible. Something similar to Reddit, where you could filter by popular posts at the time, like ones that, and then the most recent and all of that. So I think having a lot of filters would be really excellent. And I feel like Lego should have their own account on that, where they leak everything. And each Lego theme, not leak, each Lego theme should have their own account. And it would be amazing if they like maybe even did collab posts with Lego content creators. I think that would be sick. And that would get a bit messy if you're creating custom content. Like, you would have to put a disclaimer that this is not official Lego. Because like there'll be kids on the app who would think this Lego art is coming from the official source of Lego, so maybe that's something they're doing, or maybe it's just them appreciating the people in the community. And I wish even the Lego Instagram page would do that more, where they just appreciate the different parts of the Lego community, because it's crazy how the Lego digital art, the style that Ash and Flash created, he brought to us, has just grown so exponentially. And obviously Lego has not acknowledged that at all.
They haven't,
and they don't have to. They don't have to, because it really doesn't add anything to their brand, but it adds so much to the community. And I don't think they need to acknowledge that, because that would make things messy, because it's a side of the community that is... they do customization, but the difference between that and mock making is that you can actually purchase the bricks and the parts to create a mock, but you can't really purchase the custom minifigures that we're drawing, you know? And you can make fig buffs and purist customs, but it's not the same, you know?
Absolutely. I agree. I see what you're saying there, especially with Lego's recent kind of declare about not printing like logos on minifigures and something of that sort to keep the trademark. I see what you're saying there about them kind of not wanting to, like, I guess, promote that.
Yeah, and I think a huge problem with that is that there are companies out there, like, who do amazing work, I will say, and I completely support them. But Lego wouldn't, because Lego is a monopoly, unfortunately. So the great thing I like about Lego is that they're the standard, okay? They set the bar, and all the other companies, the brick and block companies, nobody wants to buy Mega Blocks, unfortunately, because it's not Lego, you know? And okay, there's amazing custom printed minifigures out there that use genuine Lego parts and custom parts and all that. But that's in direct competition. And Lego themselves, the Lego group and the company that is, would probably see it as them abusing their product, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
Because
don't
I
know if
think
that fully makes sense.
I see what you're saying. Because, I mean, they do have, I think it was a policy called the fair play policy, where it's like you are allowed to use, they allow you to use the minifigure even though it's trademarked for, our sig figs and use them as a part of our brand. But once again, they do have an issue when you start to sell them and make them look like something that they might produce or better, or make it hard to tell the difference. And while of course, we can all tell the difference, not everyone can, and I guess they don't like that. But I see the issue there. One way that they could combat that maybe is by, I don't know, maybe like listening to what people would like a little bit more and producing it. But
True.
that could
It's
definitely
a
help.
company at the end of the day.
It is, but I am surprised sometimes about how little they listen to certain things that like people are asking for. I feel like some of it makes sense, but I feel like some of it kind of gets a little bit ridiculous at times. But
Yeah.
it's
Hot take.
sometimes though they
Sorry.
do what? No, what you saying?
Hot take. I don't think we should be entitled at all.
Okay.
Like, as content creators, it's awesome to like create our own stuff, but I don't think we should expect anything out of a huge company that are really driven by money, unfortunately. But that's the entire world. So like, we're not blaming Lego, we're blaming the society and the world that we're living in that's obsessed with money, and everybody needs it, Everybody
Yeah.
needs it. It's a utility. So yeah, everybody's obsessed with money, and so is the company, and so is the toy. Even though it's a toy company aimed at kids, they need money, and they're going to do anything they can to get there. And that means sometimes ignoring what people want in favor of things that they think will get them more money. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, because I'd think if people are yelling, "I'm going to throw my money at you if you make this," that they'd go, "Oh, shoot, yeah, let's make that." But I mean, once in a while they do. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
But I feel like compared to a lot of other companies that have a following like that produce collectible items or those sorts of things, I feel like I mean, of course, they're not perfect. I feel like they do tend to listen a bit more to fan desire, and those things do tend to do quite well because people are literally saying, "I'm going to give you my money for it." So
Yeah.
it's a bit of a difficult situation, I guess, but
Yeah, it's hard to navigate because honestly, I agree. It would make Lego more money. It would be beneficial for both parties, the creator and the consumer. But at
yeah.
the end of the day, I don't think we should really expect anything out of anyone because, as the Joker would put it, we live in a society, and that's all.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. So you have a YouTube channel. Where would you like to see that go in the future?
Honestly, my original goal when starting the YouTube channel was to one day hit 10,000 subscribers. What
Yeah.
a wonderful, crispy, beautiful number. And honestly, nowadays, I'm not concerned with numbers whatsoever on any of my social media platforms. But it would be nice to one day be able to produce content and maybe be monetized. And that way, I would just be making a bit more in order to support my future family. You see, my
Yeah.
goal used to be, I need money for Lego, but now I'm just becoming a lot more casual with it, and I'm more interested in the future and benefiting others as well. So definitely
Yeah.
going to donate a lot, and I'm going to spend a lot of my time and money in the future into helping others. I feel like that's the career path I want to go down. I don't know what career, but definitely one that helps others. Probably go on missions and stuff just to provide for impoverished countries and stuff. And yeah, I don't even remember what the question was, but there you go.
No worries. Where you'd like to see the channel go, but I see what you're saying there. All right. And what kind of content would you like to, I guess, do more on there?
Yeah, I want to do more art showcases, like CMF videos, but I'd love to just, I don't know, make short films and stuff, maybe surrounding Legos, or do concept art and theories, and I don't know. I'd love to, okay, this is pretty cool, but I've wanted to do like a Ninjago Next Generation thing. Write the stories, concept art, all of that, but I just have no motivation. If I had a team behind me who would be willing to like help me with that and we could do that together, I'd totally get onto that. But for now, it's just so much of a hefty task, especially in my last year of school. So yeah, but in the future, if anybody's willing to help me like really do that and be creative, yeah, I believe that just creating a lot of ideas and generating a lot of different creative things for the Lego community would be really fun. And doing that with other people would be amazing because, like I said a million times, I love people. And I feel like the reason I'm doing everything in this life is to benefit others at the end of the day. Yeah. And hopefully lovely. People enjoy what I do.
I definitely see what you're saying there. Well, that is awesome. And that is something I wanted to mention. You started a kind of Ninjago Next Generation thing a while ago, and that looked very interesting. Do you think you'd be able to talk about just a little bit more about what your kind of ideas for it were? Or would you like to keep that? Well, you posted some designs about it.
Back in the day when there was an Ash and Flash Discord server, he used to host a monthly artist contest, which was awesome, man. That was the most hype thing ever in the Lego community, I'm telling you, especially for Lego artists like myself. And one of the competitions was create a new elemental master. Ooh. And I was like, bro, this is made for me. So what I did was I combined water and lightning, obviously given the theory that perhaps Jay and Nia would have a kid who could facilitate both elements. And their dragon would also theoretically be the exact same dragon that Jay and Nia created in season 6. Hydroelectric, you know? So it's really cool, like theory wise, and if that was integrated in the lore. And I don't know if that works. I'm pretty sure you can only really hold one element unless you're a master of energy and a descendant of the first Spinjitzu master. But yeah, I created a ninja who was the master of both, and I basically based it off myself at the time.
I get that.
Because it was like a sig fig kind of thing. It was kind of like an OC and a self-insert. And I'm not sure, given the fact that I want to one day go back and revise that idea, if I would make myself a character. It would be nice, but I don't think... I just hope that's not like self-obsessed, which I don't think it is, but other people might see it as that.
A lot of people do that, so I think you're good.
Yeah, I'd love to have a character in Ninjago. And yeah, so that's one character. I could go through like a short list of outlines of what the characters I think should be. If you're willing to hear those.
Go ahead. Feel free.
So I think there should be a false green ninja.
Ooh.
Which is Lloyd's first son. I would call him Monty, which is short for Montgomery, which is Lloyd's middle name, right? Montgomery, right? That's awesome. I think that's awesome. So there would be Montgomery Garmanon, right? And he would be a false green ninja because they expect him to be the green ninja. But he turns out being corrupt because of Garmadon's blood in his veins. scary. But then his little sister, her name would be Leah or something like that. It would be spelled something like Liyah, which is like similar to Lloyd's name. It's weird how I made this like headcanon and I haven't even written it down. It's just sitting there in my head.
Just
And
lives in
then
your head. I
she would
totally
be
get that.
she would be the Green Ninja, but then Monty would of course be, how do you say, redeemed. Like he would have to obviously struggle with the dark side, if that's what you would call it. There would be a lot of good stuff about redemption and that, and it would add a lot to the lore. So this is weird, but the way I see it is that all descendants of the first Ninjutsu master inherently have the power of creation, of energy. And what differentiates creation, which is Wu's element, and destruction, which is Garmadon's element, is not that they're actually different, but that they're the same, and that what you use it for is what it becomes. So energy can be used to do good or evil. That's just the basic law of our universe as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it kind of you can say that and it will make sense in every context of the Ninjago universe. I just wish that they really like hammered down on that idea, especially since Garmadon has used lightning in season 1. He has purple fire. He made rocks levitate in season 8. Lloyd had all 4 elements at one stage, which he combined into energy at one point. So it just kind of makes sense, without saying it explicitly, that the power of energy is just the 4 creation elements.
I see what you're saying there.
So yeah, my idea is that the reason that there are 4 creation elements and not 6, because I believe water and wind to be the missing elements, is because, of course, water and wind were already in Ninjago before, what's his name? The first Ninjutsu came.
Yeah, the first Ninjutsu master.
Created order out of the chaos. And if you look at biblical law in the Bible and the Torah, there's the idea that there was water when God first created the earth. There was already water and chaos. So I believe that the first Ninjutsu master is similar to religious law in the real world.
That seems to be
where
what
he's like kind of the god of their world, if that makes sense. So yeah, I had a fun, unique theory that Wahira is the fusion of the water and wind dragon who was cursed to not have wings and banished.
Oh.
And then because they wanted to create chaos, so then the 4 remaining dragons, this is just crazy ideas that I had, the 4 remaining creation elemental dragons who are the children of the firstborn, who are the first children of the firstborn dragon, they would grant the first Ninjutsu master their powers so that he could fight Wahira, and from there he creates balance and creates Ninjago. And that they could totally put that into the lore, and it just sounds silly coming out of my mouth because it's all headcanon, but it actually makes sense, I believe, within the way Ninjago works.
No, I think that's I think that's a lot more plausible than a lot of the headcanon I've heard out there. So
yeah,
I think that's really cool though. I like that a lot. Especially the like Wajira being a mix between like the wind and water dragon that was cursed to not have wings. Like that is so cool.
Yeah, I reckon Serpentine, you could kind of figure out a way for them to be descendants of dragons. In a way. I
mean,
Constricti, so. Yeah, the Constricti, which aren't they the ones that drill themselves into the ground?
Yeah.
You could kind of like bend it to say they're the descendants of earth dragons. And then you could say that the Fangpire are the descendants of form dragons.
Yeah, I see
because
what you're
they
saying.
change the form of the people that they bite. Then there's the Hypnobrai from Mind dragons, like Neuro, the elemental master of the mind, which the way that elements work is in Ninjago is a bit silly, but I believe there's 6
Yeah.
core elements. And then what's the last one? Venomari, Toxicity, which is Tox from Ninjago and from Ultra Agents, of course.
Yeah.
So the fact that that's an element, I think it's called Poison, that's mad. And technically, you could create the idea that there's more hidden tribes of the Serpentine descending from the dragons based on all different, how do you say, all the different elements. And
Yeah.
what is it, Anacondrae? Don't they have the power to go invisible? Like the Master of
Um,
Light?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I've seen any others besides Pythor do that, but I'm assuming they all have that power. So let's go with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty mad. And it's just something I thought of one day. And it's a bit silly that I'm acting as though it could be canon, but like maybe they haven't thought about it, but it just makes complete sense in my opinion.
I see what you're saying, and I don't think it's silly at all because once again, it's not like they planned out the whole story from the very beginning. Like they've been making it up as they've gone along too, and a lot of stuff doesn't make sense in Ninjago. So
Yeah.
I like
I
what
feel like you could make
what
sense
you
of the
got there.
chaos. Can I tell you a
Really,
really cool theory I had?
go ahead. I'm all ears.
This is my favorite theory of all time. Jay did in fact possess the element of wind at one point
Okay, how come? Oh right,
instead
yeah.
of retconning it. And here's my reason why.
Okay.
Okay. Say that this is pretty basic knowledge if you follow Tommy Andreasen. When a master dies, an elemental master dies, but they have no bloodline, I'm pretty sure that the element goes to an entirely different host, right? Who is not part of their bloodline, of course. It can just go to anyone, right? Moro dies. His element is passed on to Jay, but then when Moro comes back, he repossesses his element because he comes back into the
Oh.
world where elements are tangible. So that way, everybody would say, oh, that part from season 1 was just retconned. It was a mistake. They didn't think that far as to include Moro. But you could retcon it even further to say that Jay temporarily possessed wind, not knowing. And also the reason he had wind is because of his link to Nia. Because there's a link between the storm and sea in Ninjago, those two elements, and there's also a bond between their yin and yang connection. So I could just freestyle and keep saying stupid things, but I feel
Oh
like that
my.
makes complete sense.
Oh my God. I see what you're saying there. That is so cool. What?
And honestly, if Jay and Nia have a kid or have 3 kids who combine their elements to create the ultimate power of the storm, which is lightning, wind, and water, that'd be awesome.
That
You know?
would. Damn. I never thought about that, but that is such a cool theory there. I love
I
that.
don't think anybody's thought about that. And I had that theory ages ago, and I was going to make a YouTube video about it. And see, I'm so demotivated that this is the first time I've talked to anybody about it.
Really? Wow. Well,
Yep.
nobody steal the idea. This was Marcus's idea, trademarked, his theory. Done. Yeah,
Yep.
that is
Too
so
many
cool.
ideas.
Oh, I feel you.
Yeah.
I have a good amount of Ninjago headcanons too. I can't remember any of them right now, but we should definitely talk about them at some point because I think we could both go on for ages about that.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, and like I mean, I always thought that like I genuinely forgot that Jay had wind powers for like one scene in Ninjago. Like when I was little, it just made sense to me, and then I forgot it existed. But I always thought like, oh, they must have thought lightning, storms. He's often portrayed in like character art with like a storm around him, so they probably thought storm, wind, lightning, all goes together, whatever. But I like how you kind of tied it into everything there.
It does. And honestly, I think it's really silly that in Ninjago the Island and Seabound, the Storm Amulet creates lightning, which
Yeah.
you could just fix that up and say it's something about Jay and his connection to the wind element. I don't know. You could play around with that. You could joke around. You
Yeah.
could try to retcon it, but honestly, I feel like there's a lot of thought that hadn't gone into it. But I feel like whatever, you
Yeah.
make of it what you will.
Exactly. There are definitely a lot of plot holes in Ninjago that can be filled with some really cool theories. So
Yeah,
I definitely agree. But yeah, that's awesome, man.
yeah. I might add to a little bit more of the lore of the new Ninjago, next Ninjago generation that I could totally be making right now, and
Do it, man.
I totally submit it to Ninjago NXT, but like I have zero motivation, man. I need a team,
Next gen.
you know.
Wait, NXT. Oh, Ninjago Next. I get. Yeah.
It's the comics that Lego actually put out for us to create our own new Ninjago story. If I submitted my ideas there, man, it would be good, but
Hold
I
on.
doubt it would get anywhere.
They put out a comic to submit your own Ninjago stories? What?
Lego put out, you can go onto the YouTube channel and everything, and the Lego website. They put out a blank comic strip for you to create your own Ninjago comic that's called hashtag Ninjago NXT, which is what comes next,
Yeah.
What comes next? And here's the thing, I couldn't be bothered doing an entire comic strip. That's too hard for me. But if it was brainstorming characters, brainstorming story, I would love to do that. And drawing the characters and like workshopping, I would love that. But I just really need a team of individuals who'd be willing to help me to actually pursue those dreams and passions, because man, life is too busy to be drawing comics at this point.
Especially as a teenager. I definitely understand that.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, hey, everybody, the offer's out there. The offer's out there to work on a project like this.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I absolutely love that. So, my final question is, do you have any advice for fellow TFOLs?
I think my main advice for TFOLs, especially in this world of sharing content creation, is just do you. Be yourself, know who you are, in the real world as well, and make all the things that you deliver to this community an extension of who you are. And by just doing what you love and being yourself, and not forcing or pushing anything that would make you uncomfortable or make you like, I don't think you should be doing it all for the clout or for anything of the sort. Just do what's comfortable, do what you're passionate about, and make sure that you're also leaving a lot of room for balance in your life, so that you can also have your head switched on in the real world and you can accomplish great things in our community and in the greater community and greater society. So yeah, just continue doing the right thing is my main thing. And know who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fantastic advice. This episode was filled with a lot of good advice, but I think that was a great one to send off with. So, thank you so much for coming on, Marcus. It was awesome having you. And before we end this episode, do you have any social medias or other things like that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, I just have minifiggy on Instagram, but if you're actually interested in me as a person and not just the corporate aspect of the content I create, follow me on Marcus Lego Artist, which is where I'll be more personal, more active. And you can join my Discord server, and DMs are always open just to chat and like explore ideas. And if you ever want to have a conversation with me, I'm really open to that. And yeah, meeting new people. So yeah.
All right. That's fantastic. And I think that's also really nice you said that you're open to conversation, because I think to a lot of people, I know myself included, it can be kind of scary just talking to someone that you haven't talked to before online that, does cool things like you do, because, you can't really see who the person behind there is. But I think that's really lovely that you say that.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest. I was awkward at the start of this because like I'm just like I need like a few minutes to get used to somebody to just start really talking to them and getting excited and hyped. But yeah, it was really nice meeting you, and yeah, I look forward to having more discussions in the future.
Totally, man. It was an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you so much.
No problem at all. All right, well, thank you all so much for watching. It means the world, and I hope you enjoyed. Links to the things and people we talked about will be in the description as always. New episodes now release once every 2 weeks on Tuesdays for TFOL Talk Tuesday, and you can find updates, announcements, and more regarding the podcast over on my Twitter or Instagram, both of which are @DoodleBricks. That's all for now, and we'll see you all later.